There was some news previously coming from, like, I think last week, that there was apparently some news going around that Starfield was going to be getting a PS5 release. But I thought to myself, okay, I'll just wait a moment, let's see how things go, and see if there's more reports about it, and if there is, hey, I'll talk about it then. And sure enough, Starfield is apparently going to be getting a PS5 release during 2026, probably earlier next year. Question is, are they going to release it with the Shattered Space expansion? Are they working on... Actually, no, now that I think about it, I don't believe they're working on any new expansions, at least from what I could remember, but I could be wrong about that as well. So, according to MP First, Starfield was pushed out of 2025 partly due to the RPG's weak sales of the first expansion, Shattered Space. Shattered Space launched in September 2024 to a mostly negative Steam review, meaning... which was meant to be followed by... Mostly negative Steam review rating. It was meant to be followed by an expansion this year as a part of the annual release schedule, but it looks like they might have pushed things back given that people didn't like Shattered Space that much. So the PS5 launch is apparently going to coincide with the release of Starfield's second expansion and other quality of life updates. MP First said not to expect an announcement at Gamescom later this month or an imminent shadow drop as Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered benefited from. And I don't think that... Starfield is going to benefit from a shadow drop, but I mean, the thing is that the game is already out, so I suppose a shadow drop might be good. I'm actually not too sure how to go about describing all of this, because I'm no advertiser. I'm not the type of person who says, okay, now you should release the game and stuff like that. It really is just, I don't know what it really comes down to that would make it a feasible thing. On how you should launch your games, because I feel like I'm more wrong than I am right. But the question of whether Bethesda might walk away from Starfield to focus on its other franchises has been a running theme since release in June 2024. That Bethesda insisted it remained committed to supporting Starfield, even though A, people don't like Starfield, and B, it was never considered to be a particularly good game, because all things considered, Bethesda just can't seem to make a good game. In fact, it's worth mentioning that Oblivion, that released earlier this year, was not a Bethesda developed title, but rather it was done by Virtuous, which was a third party that did the development for them, and are the same guys that are working on Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. So it's very much worth keeping that in mind. And they confirmed at least one other story expansion would release following Shattered Space. In an interview with Mr. Matty Plays, Bethesda Game Studios' Todd Howard said the developer was aiming to release an annual story expansion for hopefully a very long time, and that seems to have bucked the trend immediately with the release of the expansion that was supposed to be this year, but has since been pushed back into supposedly 2026. But there's been little news since, leading Starfield players to express their dissatisfaction at the level of communication coming out of Bethesda on the future of the game, with its no-show at June's Xbox Game Showcase considered the final straw for some. I mean, I don't know what people were honestly expecting, all things considered. Does this actually go into any other details? So, we know that Fallout and Elder Scrolls are basically the only other IP that Bethesda kind of really work on, so they could think of Starfield as something new, but again, it's done so poorly that it may very well have poisoned the well. Who knows? Doesn't seem like he's actually going out on anything else. Shattered Space. Yeah, okay. So I guess it just goes more into the details of like why people didn't like Shattered Space, which was that nothing extra was added. In terms of like actual content, it was more just like a single storyline in a new place. That's all fine, but it didn't meaningfully like add to the game's actual what they already had, basically. And I mean, they've been adding free vehicles and dropping that junk on, but I don't know if it's actually like worth the damn, to be completely honest. In fact, let's actually have a quick look at the Metacritic for Starfield while we're here. Starfield Metacritic. I don't believe it's doing particularly well. because it was never a well-received game to begin with. 83 Metascore, 6.8 user score. Then where the heck is Shattered Space then? Because I don't think it did well. Shattered Space. Critic reviews are sitting at 62. Holy crap. User score at 40, well, 4.9 rather. Because the thing is that these, these trailers really made Shattered Space look like it was going to be like the next vestige for where they're going to be putting their stories with Starfield and all that. Like, they really hyped it up, and it really sucks to see that it didn't do particularly well, because normally the DLCs for Bethesda games is what levels up the game from being like a good game to a great game. Like, I think of Shivering Isles as a very good example, given that, you know, Oblivion did recently get, Shadow dropped and all the other good stuff. Unfortunately, because Starfield was never a good game to begin with, Shattered Space could only do so much and didn't add anything meaningful. It was no like The Pit. It was not like Shivering Isles. It's not like, oh man, what other games do we have? Any of the Fallout New Vegas editions either, because that game had like 4 genuinely good expansions as well. Like, there really isn't much to go off of, honestly, so I suppose it is what it is. Not Fallout, I was gonna say Fallout Shattered Space. Starfield Shattered Space did not review particularly well. Starfield also didn't review all that well either, so it getting a PS5 release, is it actually genuinely going to get a second lease of life in any way, shape or form? That is actually my question to you guys at home. But with all of that being said though, let me know what about anything that I mentioned in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I'm aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year, and with all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.